So as a scientist, it's really critical that you identify your question. What is it that you want to know? And then you carefully choose the methods and the techniques that will get you the information that you know you're looking for. My main methods as a qualitative researcher, sometimes the kind of qualitative researcher I am is also sometimes called an ethnographer, are observing people, watching people do things, interviewing people one-on-one, and again, possibly sometimes in small groups. And scientists try to use methods that other scientists have used and tested. They've been what's called validated so that we know that they work well. And as a qualitative researcher, I'm lucky that there is a huge amount of literature on qualitative methods. And so I have lots of books, I have lots of journal articles that I can consult that help me with the process of formulating good questions. Good questions to get very specific information, good questions to get more open-ended and broad information, to get that information that I didn't know that I was expecting. So as a scientist, you want to be sure that you're always consulting and doing your homework not only on your subject matter, but also on your methods. And my main tools for doing that are first my own thinking, and then the tools that I take into the field for are, I have a set of interview questions that can be called an interview guide or an interview protocol that I have very carefully put together, relying on my colleagues who have written about qualitative methods before to make sure those questions are well crafted. In addition, I'm going to take a notebook, a pen, and a tape recorder. So I am going to record, with permission, of course, my interviews with people so that I have every single word, every bit of information that they've given me. But I also have that notepad where I'm taking notes while we're talking, because there's information that isn't just verbal. There are things in the room, maybe, or maybe we're doing the interview out in the woods. There are things in the woods. Photographs are also really useful because they also can convey and contain a set of information that somebody's words do not. People forage today in cities in the United States. So as I said, we had to adapt the questions that I've been using for studying foraging in rural areas to urban areas, and again, needed to craft questions that are specific enough to get the information about, okay, what plants are you foraging in, let's say New York City. What plants are you foraging in New York City? And when do you pick them? Where do you pick them? But I also needed to make sure that I asked questions that were broad enough so that people could tell me about things that I wasn't expecting, that I didn't know to look for. Example might be, we really went in thinking with our assumptions that people are doing this for themselves. Or maybe they might be doing it for their families. But one of those open-ended questions got a very interesting answer from a young man that we just weren't expecting at all. And he was foraging in his own neighborhood in New York City, but he noticed that there were lots of homeless people in his neighborhood, and he thought that probably they spent a fair amount of time being hungry. And so one of the things that he did was to write his own little guide to the wild foods of his neighborhood of New York City and photocopy it and hand it out to homeless people. We really hadn't expected, and it's been amazing to find how people share. They share not only the things that they forage, but they share the information about foraging. And that's extremely critical. There's a whole area called knowledge studies. And we have been learning things that we just didn't know we needed to look for until we started to hear these kinds of answers about how knowledge is shared, created, reproduced through person-to-person contact and also through use of the internet.
Visit the Natural Enquirer website for more information. There you can learn more about planning to test your own question.